Immerse yourself in the lives of the BYU Cougars. This is Deep Blue. This is Deep Blue with Jason Shepard.
Thanks for tuning in for a new episode of Deep Blue. This is the show where we get to know the person behind the number that you see on the field or the court. These are the true stories of BYU athletes from their own mouths. My guest today, BYU basketball guard Dawson Baker. Dawson, thanks for taking a few minutes.
Thanks for having me.
You and I talked quite a bit last year for the season, and I'm excited for the opportunities we're going to have to talk about this upcoming season. We got so much to get to, but I want to start out with this. You're playing a role on the BYU basketball team at an unprecedented time in BYU sports history. I mean, you talk about the hype that is around the basketball program. We have not seen this level of excitement and focus and attention since the days of Jimmer. What is it like being involved in this program at this time?
It's super exciting. As a kid, you just want to have a memorable career. And being on a team like this, and even last year, we did a lot of memorable things. It's exciting to know that when I walk away from the game, I had a career full of amazing moments and big games, and I got to do it with a bunch of cool dudes. And so we're all super excited. We're anxious like the fans to just, get the season going and whatnot. But, we're just super stoked, and we know expectations are high, but it's a privilege to have that.
Well, when you look at it, I know that obviously the end result, and when people are growing up, they dream about winning it all and winning as much as possible. But there's this part of every athlete that wants to challenge themselves against the best. And you look at the types of teams that you played last year and how far you guys went in the NCAA tournament, and you're in the Big 12 conference. You get an opportunity to test yourself against the best of the best every single night. That's got to be thrilling.
It's awesome. It's talking with some of the guys last year, just in this offseason, there's a lot of games that just kind of felt like movies, and it's surreal event, stadiums that we were playing in, and the fan bases were crazy, and it's super cool. I'm excited for these new guys to get to experience that and the level of the Big 12, and it can be humbling, but it's a great way to see where you measure up against the best.
Is it crazy to think how much change has happened with this program since you initially signed with BYU? We're talking about essentially a different team, different staff. I mean, everything. Is it crazy to think how much change has actually happened?
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's kind of just the landscape of college sports. Ever since I've been in college with NIL and all these other things have just been changing so much, and it's kind of the business we're in, and you kind of get used to it. But for me, at least, this is probably one of the more consistent years of where I have a lot of the same coaches coming back, same strength coaches and dietitians and all that, and so and play for the same coach and the same program, and so I feel pretty comfortable about it. I know it's changed for a lot of other people, but I'm excited.
You mentioned the evolution of not just college basketball, collegiate athletics in general. It's starting because now we've gone through a couple of seasons where everybody's kind of starting to understand what the new norm is. But did it take a while to kind of, sort of catch your breath on everything that was changing in college athletics?
Yeah, you kind of had to pick up your pace at least to kind of figure out what was going on. And even still to this day, there's a lot of unknowns with a lot of the stuff going on. We're all still trying to figure it out. But it's been fun and exciting, and it's been kind of a transition period for college athletics, and it's been cool to be able to experience that firsthand and be an athlete during this period of time.
So let's go over what it was like being on last year's team. We've touched on a little bit. You mentioned how the expectations were high, but there were moments early in the season where things weren't going great, and there were some rough patches. Providence game, obviously, you started 2-4 in conference play. How did you guys handle those early struggles, and how much do you believe, now looking back on it, it actually helped you as the season progressed?
Yeah, I think with any new team, there's a lot of growing pains. We experienced that the first year of Coach Young and having new players, and we're sure we'll experience some of that this year coming up. But you just got to stay the course. The messaging was really good from the coaches, just staying consistent every day, and staying positive. We never got too high or too low, and we stayed in the moment. And we just worried about the next practice, the next opportunity to play basketball together. And eventually it kind of clicked, and we found our groove, and it was a super fun time to be a Cougar.
Not every team has the ability to be able to look at it as level-headed as you guys did, knowing that, look, we're doing the right things. This is going to turn around. We've got to be patient. We can't panic at this point. Where did that come from?
It comes from coaching, for sure. I know I've been on a lot of teams, been under a lot of coaches, and ultimately how they react is how the players are going to feel and they're going to react. And, Coach Young just stayed consistent, stayed positive, and stayed the course, and he was realistic. We didn't have these crazy goals that maybe some super fans had for us. And we're staying in the moment. And so coaching did a really good job of just sharing how he was feeling, and you can feel that through his emotions and just how he was coaching and practicing. And so, it definitely came from the coaching staff for sure.
In all of my interactions with you, and in fairness, most of it has been in a media capacity, so a work capacity, but you don't strike me as someone that has really, these peaks and valleys. You seem fairly even keeled. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, for sure. I think just growing up, having older brothers and having to stay patient and wait for my time, and being a good basketball player when you're young and you played varsity as a freshman, and they would kind of, face guard you the whole game. You have to learn to just control your emotions early in your life. And a lot of other aspects of my life have kind of helped me for that. And it's been a good stabilizing factor for me as a player and just as a person, just to keep my emotions even keeled.
Well, you mentioned patience, and as an individual and then as a team, you guys weathered that storm, and then the turnaround happened, and you guys got on a roll. And we could spend the entire podcast talking about all these individual games, but when you look at that turnaround, what was the feeling in the locker room as you're starting to realize it's coming together right now?
Yeah, it was just a lot of excitement. Every win just felt so big, and it just felt so fun. It was a joy to be able to go travel to these other places and play another team and be able to stack wins together. And it was a very unselfish group. We had a lot of players that played a lot of minutes. And so once we figured out the rotation, how that worked for us as a team, ultimately everyone was just so happy about winning that everything else took care of itself. And just overall, just bliss and happiness was just kind of the feeling in the locker room before and after games and going into practices, and it was an enjoyable time.
Is it as simple as was it a certain game where it clicked and then it was a jumping off point? Was there a specific win? Because obviously, as I mentioned, there's so many wins that you can point to individually. Was it something like that, or was it more of a gradual thing? Yeah,
there was definitely big moments. There was definitely a lot of steps. I think the start of that big win streak we had was West Virginia, and we didn't really play good. And if you would have told me, hey, we're going to win the next 9 games of probably our toughest stretch of the season, probably been like, that's a little unrealistic. But there was big games. I mean, Arizona, Iowa State, those were kind of big games for us where we really looked ourselves in the mirror like, yeah, we're one of the best teams in the country right now, and we should be playing like it. We have the confidence and swagger. And so a lot of those big wins and winning in hostile environments kind of built our confidence up a lot.
So let's take it into then the NCAA tournament, because that was the goal from the very beginning, was to get to the NCAA tournament and then see how you matched up against everybody else in March Madness. You guys, again, got on a run, but getting that first win in the NCAA tournament, what did that mean to you guys to be able to do that for the first time since 2011 for the program?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. Just the overall excitement. It's such a cool experience, just the feeling in the air and those arenas and the cameras and all the media exposures at a different level. And that first game, no one really knows how it's going to go, and everyone's really anxious about it. And it seems like the biggest game ever, more than the second game. And so to get a win in that environment and know that we were advancing and we're going to be a select few of teams, kind of breathe a little bit. And it was exciting. It was super fun. And great to have guys like that on this team that are coming back and have that kind of experience, because it's a unique experience that no one could really prepare for.
Well, and then the Wisconsin game happens. What do you remember most about the Wisconsin game?
Yeah. It was a fun game. I mean, they were offensively really good and played a slower pace. We were kind of more different in that sense. I just can remember the game plan very vividly going to that game. I remember down the stretch, my number got called a lot. We were playing through me a lot, and I was on a good roll. And eventually, before you knew it, I was in the locker room.
You got the flagrant foul 2 call.
Yeah.
Bogus, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I can say that. You don't need to say anything. I'll say it.
Yeah, so before I knew it, I was in the locker room, kind of just what just happened, and watching that game. They kind of started creeping back and kind of getting anxious and stuff, and just so happy we won that game. And like the locker room after that is a time I'll never forget. Just the excitement to see them come back to the locker room and be able to celebrate together. And it was a big win. There was a good team, and so it was definitely one of the most memorable games for me personally, and I know for BYU too. That'll go down in the history books as a fun game to look back on.
Well, and you were part of a very emotional and viral moment that a lot of people are going to remember the Wisconsin game for you being in the locker room, and there was a camera there that caught you sort of pacing and sort of living and dying by everything that was going on, knowing that you were in the locker room. First off, did you know there was a camera in there?
I had no idea. So apparently they snuck a small little GoPro one in the corner, and I had no idea about the video until we landed back home, and Coach Young came up to me and was like, "Hey, like, did you see the video?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "They have a video of you in the locker room celebrating the win. It's the coolest thing ever." Like, I was like, "Oh man, come on!" I was like, "I don't like being on camera," and like the vulnerable moment. And so they posted with that like right away, and I was like, but it turned out to be a great thing, and it was a cool moment for me personally to look back on. And so it's cool that it's documented in that way.
Do you have people still come up to you and talk about that?
Yeah, a lot. That's a big moment that people remember because it was a fresh moment, and it was a cool moment, big win, and so a lot of people have mentioned that to me.
I honestly, as soon as I would have found out, the first thing that would have gone through my mind is, oh, I hope I didn't do something embarrassing.
Yeah, right.
Nobody was there. Yeah, I mean, just all of those things could have been crazy. But it's one of those moments. Like you talk about these moments as in being a fan and of whatever the sport is, whatever the team is, and these moments that you will remember that will always take you back. And I think for a lot of people, that's going to be one. What a cool thing for you to be able to be a part of like that.
Yeah, it was absolutely. I'm grateful they documented it for sure.
All right, so these days, as we mentioned earlier, with the change in the landscape of collegiate athletics, athletes have more options than they ever have. Obviously, you've chosen to come back to BYU. What went into that decision? How was it a difficult decision, or was it, you know what, this is pretty easy for me?
It was pretty easy for me. I think also being married and having to think about, you know, my spouse and what we both needed, and she's obviously still in school here, and that was a part of the factor. But ultimately, you know, we got a good group of dudes coming in. It's gonna be a special team. My conversations with Coach Young have been really good, and super excited about this bigger role that I'll be able to be a part of, and so it was pretty easy for me to just, you know, this is where I want to be. I love it here. The fans have been great. I think it's such a unique place, and obviously being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ, the Latter-day Saints, that's something that's really important to me, and honoring that. And so there's no other place that I can do that. And so it made the decision really easy for me, and I'm super excited about it.
And you met your wife here at BYU, right?
Correct.
That's great.
Yep.
So what's her name? Let's get the story. How did you two meet? How did this blossom into this eternal family here? It
actually happened pretty quick. So when I transferred here, my first class at BYU, we met. And so we started dating soon after that. We actually both ended up dropping this class.
But you needed to be there to meet each other.
I needed to be there.
It had served its purpose.
I said, hey, let's drop this class. We'll take it another time. And so we started dating after that, and got married 9 months, year after that. And so it's been a journey. It's been a great blessing. It's something that's special to BYU, and it has a special place in my heart because of her. And the way that we've collided, it was kind of, no coincidence. And so another reason to love BYU for me.
Is she a huge sports fan as well?
Yeah, she loves, her family loves basketball, BYU, everything. She grew up in Orem, so she's close by. And so it's been fun. She's been great for me as a person, as a player.
All right, well, we're talking about your life. How about we take it to the Wayback Machine after the break? We're gonna find out where you grew up. We'll talk about little Dawson Baker and the Baker family. We'll get into all that when we return. We'll take a quick break here on the Deep Blue Podcast on BYU Radio. The Big 12 is full of unforgettable moments, and big stories is where they're told. Host Cleon Wall teams up with voices from across the conference to spotlight the biggest plays and the most inspiring stories. Do not miss it. Listen to Big Stories wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to the Deep Blue Podcast here on BYU Radio. I'm your host, Jason Shepard. My guest, BYU basketball player Dawson Baker. And Dawson, before the break, we were getting into a little bit of your life away from basketball. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Grew up in California, right?
Yep.
And how many siblings? What was your family dynamic like?
I'm the youngest of 7, so 3 older brothers, 3 older sisters.
So we hear stories. I'm the oldest, so I don't know anything about being the youngest. Did you get all the preferential treatment that most siblings think that the youngest gets? Do you feel like you got that?
I know my older siblings would say so, and I probably did. And it came with some, attacks on it too. I had some other things that I wish I was older for. But yeah.
So now, with you being the youngest, what's the age difference between you and the oldest?
Oh man. Probably 16 to 18 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's actually my sister who lives here. She's a teacher at Timpview High School named Cassie Baker. She's pretty famous there. But yeah, so living here, it's been awesome because it's meeting my sibling who's kind of like a stranger to me. I've never really grown up with.
Yeah.
And so it's been cool to spend more time with her and get to know her better. But yeah, it's being the youngest, you miss out living with a lot of your siblings, which is kind of crazy.
And I would imagine it's also like you have multiple parents because everyone wants to try and take care of you or to boss you, either both probably at the same time. Okay, so we mentioned you grew up in California. Where specifically in Cali?
Orange County. If you know the area really well, Coto de Caza is the spot. But if you don't know that, Mission Viejo is a pretty common area. Just a little inland from there, really close by.
Okay, so what are you doing? I mean, obviously that's Orange County. It's near the beach. And were you a beach kid? Was that what did you do growing up?
Yeah, we would go to the beach a lot. I never surfed like crazy, but the beach was 15, 20-minute drive from where I live, and that's just a common thing you do. You grow up going to the beach and having bonfires and hanging out with your friends at the pool and doing all those sort of like water outdoor activities. And so it's the greatest place ever. I firmly believe that the weather is the best place on earth for weather. And there's a ton to do. There's a ton of good Mexican food and just food in general. And so it's the greatest place on earth.
Okay, so to follow up, you mentioned the greatest place on earth. What about the happiest place on earth? Were you guys Disneyland people growing up?
Personally, I don't think our family really wasn't. Obviously, I've been there a couple times,
right.
Probably 10 times, but it's a different extreme from people that aren't from there.
Yes.
They will live and die at Disneyland.
Yes.
And for us, it's more just like, yeah, it's right down the street. It's something that we, occasionally might do every couple years.
It's what makes the freeways even more,
yeah,
all the congestion.
Yeah, but it is a now thinking back on it, I'm like, I should have took advantage of that more growing up there. It is a cool thing, and it's a fun place, amusement park to go, and there's a lot of cool things to do in that area.
When did sports become an important part of your life?
Yeah, I never remember it not being an important part of my life. My dad played college basketball. I actually played with Mark Eaton. And my brothers all played basketball. Me being the youngest, you always look up to your older siblings and what they do, and you just kind of follow suit. And so ever since I was little, that's all I've thought about, and everything that all my energy and my passion's kind of been committed to doing, just sports and basketball specifically. And so it's always been a part of me. It's always defined me, and it's how I met a lot of my friends, and how I bonded with my brothers and my dad has all been through sports. And so it means a lot to me.
I didn't realize there was that connection with Mark Eaton. I got to cover. Well, he had retired mostly by the time I was covering the Jazz, but I got to be around Mark Eaton a lot, and obviously now he's unfortunately passed away. But I did not realize that there was that connection with your dad. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, super cool. They were actually really close, and he had a house up here, and we would come visit him and hang out with him, and he had this cool restaurant that we would go to, and so he was a good friend of my dad's, and so sadly he passed away, and but yeah, it's cool that he got to play with him and got to experience that. He has cool stories about how he first started playing basketball.
Okay. All right. So as you're progressing in life and in basketball, take me through high school and your high school career. And I'm always fascinated when you realize, oh, this is not just a hobby. Like this, I could do something with this. Do you remember when that started to happen for you?
I think I thought that thought when I was really young, just because my brothers played in college, and I just thought that's just what we do in our family.
Yeah.
You know, we go to church, and we play basketball, and we get Division I scholarships, and so that's what I just thought was normal, which probably was a good, unrealistic thing, but a good thing for me, just confidence-wise, is just, yeah, this, like, I have to do this. I got to be that guy. I think when I really figured out basketball, though, when I felt like, okay, yeah, I'm way better than I thought I was probably the end of my sophomore year in high school, when I consistently was hitting 20 plus points a game. I found a good groove, and I kind of figured it out. And ever since then, I kind of felt like my basketball game has been a lot better. And so that's probably when I figured out the basketball aspect. My dad, he coached us all pretty hard, and he was our biggest critic, which was really good for us. And so when we weren't playing well or playing to our standard, we knew really quickly. And so I think by the end of that sophomore year, I had him off my back a little bit, and I realized, okay, maybe I am playing good now that, I'm not having these long conversations after the game, drive home with dad. And so I think that's when I kind of figured it out.
Was that right around the same time that maybe the recruiting started? Like, take me through. Everyone's recruiting story is very unique to them. What was yours like?
Yeah, mine was weird. I still don't understand it, to be honest. So from my freshman year of high school, I had BYU come to my practice at high school, and nothing really happened with that. No offers or anything. Obviously, I was getting kind of D2s and all those, but by my junior year, I received an offer from the University of California, Irvine, and I still to this day think that was a miscommunication, that people thought I committed, but I had an offer, and usually everyone's like, yeah, once you get one offer, other schools just the same conference will just start offering you. No one else did. And I was like, the weirdest thing to me, I'm like, okay, I'm one of the top players in California right now, and nothing's really happening. So it's my one offer. I played my whole senior year, great year or whatever. Nothing really happened. And so by the end of it, I'm like, well, maybe it just is easier to decide this way. I already know there's only one offer. And so, and I knew the coaching staff really well there, and they were super optimistic about my mission, which I really loved. It's close to where I'm from, and so I knew it was going to be a good place for me to develop. And it was like, okay, well, at least this is easier. I only have one option to choose from. And so I stuck with them, went on my mission, and then came back and had a good 3 years there.
So you mentioned that BYU came to the practice. Was that the dream school for you growing up?
Most people it is, being a member of the church. For me, just since my brothers never really got the attention from BYU that we thought we kind of earned, it wasn't really something that was in the cards for me, I thought, at first. And so obviously I wanted it because I knew it was a good school, a big school, and obviously maybe being a member of the church, it was something you wanted. But I don't know what happened with BYU during that time period. Coaching changes happened, but kind of got lost in translation there, and it never happened. But when I went back in the portal after my third season at UCI, I had pretty much every school contacting me. And I put BYU, Boise State, Utah, and Utah State, and those are ones I'm going to focus on because it's impossible to focus on the rest. And BYU, even then, I was like, I'll put it in there. I don't really know yet. But when I came and visited, it was just like, man, I've been missing out. Like this is such a cool environment for family setting, and like just like having the fathers and sons camp, having my brothers come with their kids, and having that, like things like that were just like so cool. And just being a BYU lifer after basketball and everything, and be able to come back and experience and have those memories. I kind of look back and like, man, I should have pushed harder for BYU probably early on in my career, and it made more of an effort to connect with them and be like, hey, come check me out, and get that going earlier. But it happened the way it did, and I'm glad it did, and it all worked itself out.
Well, and that's actually one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because everybody goes through their own life journey, and you have events, good and bad, that you encounter throughout your life. And there are always crossroads and things that you go this way, but you could have gone this way. And, all these things, I think when we look back on them, we can see the hand of the Lord in all of these little decisions that at the time, we weren't 100% sure about, but there was just something that's like, just go this. How many times have you, when you look back, can you see the Lord's hand in your life in these decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thinking about going back to me and my wife in that class, if I would have came here earlier or was on a different schedule, the amount of credits that I took at UCI, I had to perfectly transfer over in order for me to be eligible for that class. And so all of those things matched up perfectly for me to meet my eternal companion. And there's been a lot of things, even at UCI, just having, spiritual conversations with non-members there on the team, and stuff related to my patriarchal blessing that kind of talked about, just serving where you're at, no matter where it is. And so I got a cool experiences with that, and it was good for me as a player to go to UCI and develop there. And I walked into a good situation where I was able to play right away and be really productive coming off a mission that's kind of rare. And so there was a lot of things that definitely just, you can see God's hand in my life, especially just looking back on my career, going on a mission. It's hard to play college basketball. You don't really get that. It's a slim percentage of people that can do that. And so there has to be some intervention from God in order for me to be here and be doing what I'm doing, for sure.
And so your mission call was to the Micronesia Guam mission. And you went right out of high school, right?
Yep.
So right out of high school, and you spoke Chuquis, is that correct?
Yeah.
What was that mission like? Because I don't, is it considered a third world country? I don't know. Tell me about it, because I don't know a whole lot about it, but I've got to imagine the stories and the experiences you have is something you'll never forget.
Yeah, it's super unique mission. Probably one of the craziest missions out there. So our mission consists of a bunch of islands, plus 7 islands that have different languages for each island. And so each island is its own kind of mission. Mm-hmm. Some will be, a little bit nicer. Like Guam itself is pretty nice. It's American soil. And so they have a lot of the military base there and some other stuff. So it's pretty Americanized. But I spent most of my time on Chuk, which is a lagoon of a bunch of small islands. So I'm talking islands that you can walk in an hour and a half, and you have 200 people on that island. And it's very third world out there. You got no running water, you got no electricity, and you're sleeping on the floor, and you're bucket showering, and you're eating with your hands. And so that's where I spent most of my time. It was the coolest thing ever. I mean, still back to this day, I actually had some mission companions or buddies that came home with me to go vacation in California, and we were able to kind of reminisce on just our mission experience, and it's just so unique. It's like no other mission. And it's shaped me in a lot of ways. It's something it's cool to, when people ask, oh, where'd you serve your mission? They always love talking about it. And so it was super primitive, super poor, super humbling, but greatest experience ever.
Can you still speak Chuquis?
I probably got a little bit in me.
So give me something, and then I'll ask you what you said afterwards, because I clearly don't speak Chuquis.
Like Rarenem Fausum is like good day, like, how are you? If you respond, you'd be like, betcha kun yen, which is like, I'm strong, I'm doing good. How about you? And so, yeah, if I were to go back and hear a native speaker, I feel like I would be able to
jump right back
into it. But it's a unique language because it's not really a written language, and every village has its own kind of accent and dialect, and so they'll say things a little bit different depending on where you are. And so you have to be really good to pick it up quick. And in the MTC, you don't learn it. So you go there and you have to speak right away, and you don't really know what's going on. So you go through Refiner's Fire really, really quick, and you learn pretty quick. But it's a unique language.
So when you come back, as you mentioned, you pick things right up pretty quickly, which obviously is what everybody's goal is. It doesn't always work out that way for athletes. How much of a load off your shoulders was that? Because I know that you wonder, like, how long is it going to take me to get back to where I was? For you to be able to come in and be able to kind of get as quick as you can back to where you felt you were, how much of a relief was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, a relief, yeah. I think I just had unrealistic confidence. Like, I've kind of always had that. And so when I came back from my mission, I just kind of thought, like, yeah, I'm going to start, I'm going to play, I'm going to perform, I'm going to average this, and this. And I didn't really have a good understanding of it. In college, usually a freshman, you kind of sit, you kind of work, you kind of develop. And I kind of had just unrealistic confidence when I was playing in practice when I first got back and in workouts. And the coaches were just like, yeah, we knew you were going to be good, but we didn't know you were going to be good this quick. We thought it was going to take some time after having 2 years off. And so things moved really quick. And it was nice because you're like, oh man, like, I did come off 2 years. It could have taken a lot longer for me to get in shape and be a good basketball player again. But once I got back in my stride and I felt like myself again, it was like, yeah, what 2 years off?
Right.
I was always like this. And so,
well, you were the Big West Freshman of the Year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Coming off of a mission.
Yeah. And so when I came back, it felt like riding a bike. The feel of the game took a little bit, but yeah, I was in a good situation too, where we had a spot where, I could arise out of the guards that we had. And so it worked itself out really well.
Okay, so you mentioned, obviously, there came a time where you had another decision to make, and ultimately you decided to come to BYU. And I know that you probably came here and you had all these expectations on what it was going to be like, and then you have the injury to your foot. How frustrating was that?
It was super hard. I think, it kind of coming out of nowhere was kind of a hard thing. And just, you have so much built up emotion just to let out when you finally make a decision to come to a school and perform and show your new coaches and the new fan bases all the things that you can do and that you care a lot and you have a lot of passion, and you have to suppress all that for a year. It's really hard. It was really hard. And it is, looking back on it, you just try to take the good things that you learned from it and move on. But it's just the name of the game. And I think for me, it was unique to me because I just never had an experience like that where I had to sit out and be injured. And so it was a new thing for me, and it was a frustrating thing, but yeah.
Well, and at that time, remembering back to that season, we were all kind of wondering when you were going to get on the floor that season to start, and then you do, but it's very short-lived. Was it pretty obvious to you right out of the gate, like I'm not going to be able to do this?
Yeah. I mean, I went into those games knowing that I wasn't going to be able to play the whole year. My foot was, not what it was supposed to be, and I wasn't feeling great. I wasn't 100%, but I was just so amped just to get out there, even if I wasn't 100%, just to show the fan bases that I could play a little bit and care. And so I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm going to have surgery. And we kind of knew as a coaching staff that was kind of the thing, but I just wanted to get some experience in. And Coach Pope at the time thought that would be a good thing, just to get some games in and get some experience in. And so it was fun to get out there. I did. I just got to play free for the little time I did, but it was fun.
Okay, so you mentioned Coach Pope, and we've had a lot of your teammates on this podcast and talked to them about how they reacted when they got the news that Coach Pope was leaving. When you found out that Coach Pope was going to be heading to Kentucky, what was your reaction with that?
I think I just thought, what does that mean for me? This is obviously the coach that brought me in here to play and wanted me to be here, and so my head's spinning of, well, now do I try to go follow him? Do I go in the portal? Do I, do all these things that you can do now in the portal? And I just got out of the portal, and it was like I didn't really love it because you're just having to talk to all these coaches all the time, and you have to make these hard conversations with them. And so I was like, I really don't want to go in. And then I just thought the best thing was just to, not make a rash decision when the emotions were high and everything was changing, and just let time settle, see who we were getting. And ultimately, Coach Young came in and kind of saved the day for me.
What was it about him specifically with you that sold you on his vision for this program?
I think like personality-wise, me and him are very similar. I think how we see things are similar, how we show our competitiveness are similar. And having those traits from a player to a coach was something that I knew was going to be good for our connection. I had great conversations with him, and he just spoke really highly of me when he was kind of recruiting me back, just saying that the potential with me, that I'm super versatile and that I can expand my game in this way. And I'm the prototype of the player that he likes. You can shoot, you can dribble, you can pass, you can do everything offensively. And so a lot of those things made us super confident. And one great thing about Coach Young that I love is that he's just super real. Like, he's super genuine. You have a conversation with him, he's not giving you fluff or anything like that, and that you can walk away like he means what he said, and you can trust that and go to the bank with it. And so that's one thing that I really love about Coach Young.
I know that last season when you would very graciously do the pregame interview with me for our BYU radio broadcast, one of the things that you and I talked about was the different role that you had, and it was something that you hadn't had to deal with before. You'd always been one of the guys and starter, and the ball's in your hands, and you took a backup role and coming off the bench, and you certainly flourished with that. But you told me that it was definitely something that you had to get used to. How was that process for you, and just sort of probably more mentally than anything else making that shift?
Yeah, it was hard. I think winning obviously helps ease the mind with all that stuff. It was a weird time too, because even Coach Young was saying, like openly that like, yeah, you'd probably start on any other team in the country, or you're good enough to do all these things. And so to be able to take the back seat, it's humbling, and it's you just got to be good in your minutes, and that's a hard thing to do, especially in my role. That I don't think that like people really notice that. You come in, and if you don't make a shot right away or you don't make an impact right away, it's like next guy up. And so that's a lot of pressure. You have to perform right away. And so when I came in, I'm grateful that I really was just aggressive, trying to make things happen. And it's a tough role to have, but it taught me a lot. It was good for me. And, ultimately us winning was the most important thing, and having a historic year. I'm going to remember that more than maybe not playing minutes that I didn't want to play or whatnot. And so looking back on it, I'm going to think about that big run that we had instead.
Well, and I know that that you and your teammates are hoping that there's going to be a lot more winning this year. I know fans are hoping the exact same thing. You're around these guys. You're in these practices and these scrimmages, and the type of talent that's in this program right now. What gets you excited about what's possible for this team?
This year, we're way more athletic. Now it's going to be time to kind of find guys like me and other guys that are more skill-oriented and be able to mesh that together. And like we said last year, there's growing pains. There's going to be growing pains this year, and chemistry and all that's going to have to mesh together for this to be the team that everyone expects it to be. But, I think just ultimately, we got good games that are coming up and scheduled, and the Big 12 is no joke. And so, ultimately we'll either make or break. And that's the fun part about it is, you'll know where you measure up. You'll know where you are against the best. And so I think that's what gets me excited. I think we have the team and the makeup to be super, super good. It's going to come down to some other factors that people don't really think about, but I'm super excited about it.
Well, Dawson, thank you so much for doing this. This was a lot of fun. I enjoy being able to get to know you guys because we talk for interviews and we say hi in the annex, but to be able to have these more personal conversations, I really enjoy these. So thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right. That is our show for today. My name is Jason Shepard. Ben Hall produced this episode. Deep Blue senior producer is Cleon Wall. You can download and subscribe to Deep Blue on all podcast platforms or find all episodes on the BYU Radio app. Deep Blue is a production of BYU Radio.